Welcome back, everyone. You're listening to Folks and Friends, a podcast by Folks Finance. Here, we invite the brightest builders, creators, and thought leaders to talk blockchain, tech, finance, and everything in between. I'm your host, Ibu Let's learn something together. Assets discussed on Folks and Friends may be held by participants of the podcast. This podcast is purely educational and not intended as advice. Enjoy the episode. Welcome, everybody, to Folks and Friends episode 3. My name is Ibu Kurel, here with my co-host, CEO of Folks Finance, Benedetto. Today we have a cool show with a great guest, Lou Kerner. We're going to bring him up as a speaker. Please, Lou, request to be a speaker. I've invited you, so you should see that notification on your screen. Lou is a crypto OG, but we're going to let him introduce himself in just a minute. First of all, I want to thank everyone for being here on this Thursday morning on the East Coast. Of course, over in Europe, it's the afternoon. Before we get started, I'm going to ask if you're here, if you could click the share button on the top of the space, copy the link, retweet it to your page so we can try to get some more people in here, because everyone deserves to be hearing this conversation we're about to have. But without further ado, Benedetto, how are you feeling today?
Hey, Ibu. All good, all good. That's a great day in Italy, very sunny. Feels like spring is fully coming in. So, when there is this mood, Italy very changes. Trees start to blossom, and you can start to have lunch outside on the sun, which is pretty cool. I really love this vibe in Italy. So how can I complain? All good. I'm excited also to have Liu here, because he's definitely one of the most experienced and knowledgeable person in crypto that I've known in my career. But I'm sure we will dive this better in a bit. I guess he's having some trouble to connect as a speaker.
Yeah, Lou, I would suggest leaving the space, coming right back in. You might be able to have some more luck connecting, because Twitter Spaces can be kind of buggy sometimes. Really excited to get Lou going, but we'll wait for him to join up. Yeah, it does seem like once you have that first warm day, everything just changes. I'm sure in Italy it's a wonderful time. It's still snowing over here, so kind of not there yet, but should be soon, hopefully.
Here he is. Welcome, Lou.
All right. Great to be here.
Hey, Lou. Yeah, amazing to have you here. I remember the first time we met. It was the only time we've met, but it was in LA, around LA Blockchain Week or something like that. What was it, Benedetto? But I forgot the name of the conference. We met at a cocktail hour. I remember you were a guy standing on the balcony. You had like a cohort of people surrounding you. Obviously a man that people want to listen to, I guess it seemed at the time. But we're really happy to have you here. First, if you could just, introduce yourself, please, to the audience, give them a little background on you so they know who's in our presence today.
Sure. So again, Lou Kerner, spent the first third of my career as a Wall Street analyst. I left that to run 2 digital companies. The second was called Bolt. It was the largest social network in the world before MySpace. Peaked at 23 million kids. So I was weirdly thinking deeply about community more than 20 years ago. And after Bolt, I continued to invest in and around community. I was an early investor in Meetup. I bought some shares of Facebook when it was private. And, long story short, I saw the crypto light on June 29th, 2017. And what I saw was, for the first time in history, we had a tool set to solve for the community. And I thought that was going to be the biggest thing to happen in human history. And today, 5.5 years later, I'm a partner at a firm called Blockchain Co-Investors. We're a crypto fund-to-fund invested in more than 40 leading crypto VCs around the world. We also have a crypto SPAC I'm CEO of. But my real passion continues to be community. I'm probably most known for starting Crypto Mondays, which is the largest crypto meetup in the world. Started in New York, January 2018. We now have 50 chapters around the world. Next week, I'm going to be at Crypto Mondays Paris, which grew and grew until it became Paris Blockchain Week. So that's going to be awesome. And my latest project for the community is called the CryptoOracle Collective. We're a decentralized Web3 advisory service. And we launched in July with 24 Web3 experts, and now we're over 160.
Wow. So the first thing I want to ask you is what drew you to the aspect of community as something that you thought was a vector that you connected with, or a vertical that you felt that you could, you really had a knack for building? What do you think? Is there something from your background or from your upbringing that really, helps you connect with people and focus on that?
Yeah, as I said, I kind of randomly ended up running this company, Bolt, and thinking deeply about community and trying to engage the community. And, that's really when I did, kind of my original thinking about community. And I go around now and I give a talk called 10 Thoughts on Community, because I think it's the most important thing in the world now. And I've been thinking about it, I feel, as much as anybody in this space. And I actually start with defining community, right? Because it's a word we all use many times every day. But, what does community even mean? How do you guys define
If you're asking that,
Yeah, I'm generally asking that. It's always interesting to hear how different people define it.
Benedetto, you go first.
Yeah. I mean, that's interesting, because I think a community can be defined as a certain group of people that share a certain passion or interest, and those people are actually sharing to each other knowledge in order to improve each other. Like to get something more than just being alone. That's what I feel. I mean, in crypto, this is pretty particular in Web3. But for example, I can think of I have a community. Well, I am my passion is spearfishing, right? So I have a community of spearfishing friends. That's with WhatsApp, when the existing the introduction of WhatsApp group, WhatsApp chat. Then we started to add the people that just share this passion, and this community became bigger and bigger, no? And anyone could give advice, like with the fishing spots that's good, or some tips, anything that could be about equipment, whatever. It just feels a community, so I think,
yeah, about half the time I have to say in under a minute.
So how do you think the crypto industry, well, first of all, I have to agree with what Ben said. It's, I generally consider community are a group of people, individuals brought together by a certain topic. Before joining the crypto community, I was part of gaming communities, which, usually revolved around various games or like genres of games, or even like platforms. I was also part of, the football community, football being soccer. And various other sports teams. Those are a very common example of community. Everyone pulling together, not always in the same direction. There's people who are part of communities who pull in the opposite direction. In crypto, there's the bulls and the bears. And especially for each individual blockchain, everyone has a different opinion. How do you think the crypto community has evolved since you first entered it until now?
Sure. Well, just to go back just for a second, my definition of community, and obviously you guys gave good definitions, but my definition is if you take your definitions and you kind of distill them down to their essence, to me, what a community is it's an ecosystem where when it works, everyone gets more out of it than they give.
So do you see the power of, people pulling together and it being, something more than the sum of its parts?
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. I have lots of corollaries to that definition, but the main corollary is called value delta, and it's my belief that communities can scale highly correlated to value delta. And what value delta is a community makes something for community members at a cost of X. Community members get it and they value it at Y. And the bigger the positive difference between X and Y, in other words, the more value delta that the community provides for its members, more utility, the larger the community can become, which is why if you think about it, the biggest communities in the world today are in fact the things that provide the biggest value delta. And we actually have a collective name for those things. You know what we call those things?
Tell us.
We call those things religion. And that's why they've scaled to billions of people and lasted thousands of years. Because they're awesome, awesome communities with massive value delta.
It's interesting you say that. I've always tongue-in-cheek referred to religions as the biggest fan clubs in the world. And I guess in a way that's kind of what you're saying?
Exactly. And I'm being nothing but positive and, about what great communities these are. And right, everybody who's trying to build a community is trying to get people to believe in a future that doesn't yet exist.
Do you think that communities are brought together, or one big factor is that they expect to get something out of it? So, in terms of religion, there's a lot of things people can get out of religion: peace of mind. They can get community out of it, like they can meet people. They can get, moral standpoint and tradition.
Eternal salvation is a big deal,
Right?
To a lot of people.
Right. What about when you consider a sports team, people want to get like that thrill out of it. When we support sports teams, it's kind of like you're rolling the dice, because if you stay loyal to that team, you never know if they're going to be good or bad, really.
Yeah, but even bad teams actually, sometimes get the most loyalty, build the biggest communities, right? The Red Sox had arguably the most loyal fan base in baseball, and they didn't win a World Series for like 80 years.
That's true.
And I have a question also, Ibu. And what about the comparison with crypto community? Because I think with the decentralization philosophy and it's very different than what could maybe at the let's say at the fundamental it's the same as you said before, but for example the way and the speed on how a crypto community builds up, it's very different than other type of community that can be sports or whatever. What do you think about that, Lou?
Well, again, I think you guys mentioned it earlier. I think, right, people join the community for different reasons, right? So obviously, one of the biggest reasons that people come to crypto is for money, right? And, for me personally, I welcome people who come to the crypto. I welcome anybody who comes to help the community. I welcome them with open arms. But you just have to realize that, for instance, the people who come to the community for money, that, money comes and goes. You get bubbles and crashes. And you just have to know, for example, for the people who are there for the money, right? When the money is there, they're going to be happy. But when the money leaves, which it's going to 100% of the time, those people are going to leave, right? Because they came to the community for something that the community is no longer giving.
I see. And indeed, we have at Fox Finance kind of a special type of community building, because our project is live almost 1 year now, and we haven't launched the token yet. So if you think about it, the reasoning behind of building this community of, the money reason, maybe can be getting early access to a token that potentially can give a high revenue. This isn't happened yet, but still we are building a very solid community behind the product. And the thing is that, at least for how I feel it, our community is kind of feeling owners of the product, because we listen a lot to them, and if there is a proposal or anything, we try to make the community happy. Nevertheless, there isn't a token or a governance token that's actually being them owners. So that's quite interesting for me, on at least on how we are living it. It's giving me a lot of good feeling of the Web3 users, because myself, right, if I use a product and I like it and I want to give my thoughts or my experience on the team that is building it in order to improve it, I feel this very beautiful that we don't have in many other industries. So that's what I really love on Web3 community. Just wanted to comment this.
Yeah, and I think for me, I think when you say that the community is happy, I think the main metric for most communities that I track, that I think is the most important metric, is engagement. I think you're either growing the engagement of your community or you're dying. I wrote the first Wall Street style research report on Facebook in March of 2010, and I came out a huge bull, and I was a bull for 8 years because Facebook's engagement continued to go up for 8 years. And it wasn't until Q4 17 when they reported their earnings and they had their first decrease in engagement ever. And that's when I went negative on Facebook. And on the call, they actually said that the engagement went down for the first time in Facebook's history because they decided to try and stop people from doing the number one thing that people like doing on Facebook, and that's reading fake news.
Do you think that in the crypto industry, people might come together in the community, like you said, for money-making reasons, prices going up or yield farming and this and that? I think a lot of cryptocurrencies, their communities were built around price action. Like, we want to see Bitcoin get to this level. We want to see XRP get to this level. Especially for some of the earlier cryptos that don't have really DeFi applications built onto them, and a lot of their value prop is to buy and hold. Do you think these communities are sustainable long term? I think we saw a lot of people come into the crypto community during the bull run after COVID, and now a lot of them have left, as you said. What are your considerations on that phenomena of people kind of rushing in and rushing out? Does it end up as a net positive?
I mean, I personally think it's a net positive, because the people who come for the money, and again, nothing's wrong with that. And the reason that you should welcome them with open arms is 99+% of those people, when they leave crypto, they're going to leave a lot of money behind. So we should thank them for that. They're very helpful for the community. But again, you just have to realize that they're not long term. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? There are a lot of different reasons to come to the community. For me, the highlight of my 5.5 years in crypto was ETH Denver 2020. That was my first ETH Denver. ETH was down more than 80% from its high. And there were 2,000 people there, and everybody wanted it higher. It wasn't that nobody there, that anybody there hated money, but the main drive for people who were there was making the world a better place, and that was incredibly powerful. And I really felt that the community that ETH had built up at that point was a massive, sustainable competitive advantage. And to me, ultimately, one of the things that the community really struggles with today is how do you value cryptocurrency? How do you value, utility tokens? And I think ultimately the value of utility tokens will be based on community metrics.
It's a very interesting answer. This I really like it, and I want to add here, what's your opinion on the actual situation now? Because what we are seeing, specifically in these days, in the last week, this shaking of the traditional banking system, and on my personal opinion. I think this is going to strengthen the crypto community, and in general, I think that a lot of funds will be moving towards Bitcoin specifically, or Ethereum. What do you think about that?
No, I completely agree with you. I think that humans, most of us, learn our lessons the hard way. And for me, my wife served me for divorce in April of 2017. And I was not surprised. I was aware that we had an unhappy marriage. But what I was surprised by was the fact that she tied up all of my assets. And one day, after working for 35 years as being successful, I was completely and totally broke. And I could tell you that I was going to make sure and do whatever I could to solve for that never happened to me again. I didn't do anything wrong. And I think everybody who had money at SVB, that they had some time where everything that they had worked for their whole lives was gone, was no longer theirs. And that is an incredibly terrifying and frightening thing. And I guarantee you, a lot of those people said, what can I do so that never happens again? And a lot of those people are going to end up buying Bitcoin for the first time.
I totally agree with that. And, for me, if we think compared to the previous cycles, now it's even more powerful, because if you think about that, now the new, let's say the new investor in crypto that are moving funds maybe from their banks, buying Bitcoin, now they come into this ecosystem, and there are plenty of tools with doing operation on DeFi with those assets. And I think by the time you start to try it, and and you see that no one can stop you, and everything is permissionless, and everything is decentralized, and you get to be really the owner of your yield, of your capitals, and use it to take a loan in a permissionless way. I think we are going to get a very strong community. It isn't going to live anymore. And what is for me here a point of reasoning of evolution is that when the traditional financial system will understand the loss they are occurring, and they understand that users that move to crypto industry, to Web3, to DeFi, are enjoying it, they will be kind of forced of using those tools to including blockchain and decentralized tools into their softwares, because otherwise people won't trust them anymore, because now their audience, which is everyone, basically everyone has a bank account, are opening the eyes. They are seeing that what is happening with what they trusted so far, they cannot trust anymore. So I think that the evolution after this is going to be very powerful.
I think for some people, right, I just think it's another kind of brick along the way. There's one of my a great quote is Upton Sinclair, a writer on kind of society. Once said, it's difficult to get a man to understand something when his salary depends on his not understanding. Right. And that's a lot of people, these things that we hold very dear, privacy, self-sovereignty, to the people who are crypto 24/7, those things are immensely valuable and we cherish them. But 99.9% of the world could care less. And so if we're going to become mainstream, we've got to provide, a lot of additional utility to users. And I think we're in the early days of building that.
Well, how do you see the industry growing to include large-scale investors if they have to do self-custody and if they don't have that support of the central government being able to cover whatever they might lose, or XYZ, as we saw with Silicon Valley Bank, the government steps in. They don't do that every time, of course, but from how I see it, I just think it's going to be very difficult to convince large-scale institutions to join the industry if they don't have some other institution or entity to either cry to help to or blame when things go wrong. So, do you think this is a big...
Sure. Well,
Go ahead.
It's important to know we don't need to get 100%, right? I mean, we've got a tiny, tiny, tiny percentage of the world today, and it's already a $500 billion thing, right? And so the only thing that we need is for more people to believe, and every day more people are believing. And is it going to be 5% of the world, 50% of the world? I don't think anybody knows. I've been as I said, I was an equity analyst for the first third of my career, and I stopped in 99. And since then, I put out 2 price targets. I put out a price target on Facebook in March of 2010 because the world had no idea. And I put $1 million price target on Bitcoin in January of 2021, 10-year price target. So that's really, and by the way, I think that could be low. There's something called the Murray's Law. He was a professor at Stanford in the 70s when he coined the term. And Amari's Law is the fact that the impact of all great new technology is overestimated in the short run and underestimated in the long run.
Yeah, I've heard about that concept before. I didn't know it was called Amari's Law, which is cool. I want to ask you about how you scaled up Crypto Mondays, from nothing to something. And, if we could just last touch upon community and what did you do to really make people feel like coming back, to the next Crypto Mondays or go to a different city and check it out there? What were your strategies to grow the community as you did?
Sure. So, I think the greatest fortune we had when we started Crypto Mondays, we started on January 2018, which was literally the peak market cap day for 2 years. And so we were really celebrating the start of crypto winter. We obviously didn't know that. And I had started multiple meetup groups before, but I never had 300 people at a meetup. And I had 300 people at the first one, 350 people and 3 TV crews at the second. And I decided to blow it out around the world, decentralized. So effectively, anybody could start a Crypto Mondays anywhere in the world, completely decentralized. And, people have a hard time with that. When, somebody calls up, Crypto Mondays London calls up and I set them up. And, inevitably I'd get an email a couple of weeks later saying, we're going to have our first meetup next week. We wanted to make sure if it was okay if we did ABC. And I write them back and I say, yes, you can do ABC. The only thing you can't do is write me email asking if you can do ABC. What part of decentralized did you not understand? And I think the degree of the success is because it is truly decentralized. There are no rules, right? In order for somebody to start and continue to run a Crypto Mondays in their city, they have to get more out of it than they're putting in. And whatever rules you would place around what they could do would limit their ability to do that. And so, the greatest thing to me about having started Crypto Mondays is how much it's changed the lives of dozens and dozens of people who have run successful ones, because the business model is simply the more you do for the community, the more the community takes it, multiplies it, and gives it back.
Does it ever bother you if people take the Crypto Mondays name and maybe do something that you wouldn't have done yourself?
Sure. Look, this is not about a panacea, right? This is not about perfection, right? This is the current systems, in my belief, the current way that our government is run and all of our institutions, our healthcare, our education, right? They're all, in my view, not only broken, but broken beyond repair. So like the thought of spending 5 minutes trying to repair anything, in my mind, it would be devastating because it would just be a complete waste of time. And I think what we're trying to do in crypto is build new systems. Again, not perfect systems, but better systems, right? Decentralization, like everything else in life, is a double-edged sword. But net, it is so much better than how the old system works. That it's unimaginable to me. I won't be spending the rest of my life in crypto.
Can you tell us a bit about CryptoOracle Collective, what that project is to you?
Sure, and thanks for asking about it. So last year at ETH Denver, there was a side event called DAO Denver. Great, side event. They had it again this year. And what I was really struck by was how many awesome people there were there that wanted to get in Web3 and how many awesome projects there were that wanted to hire them. But there was a really significant disconnect in that the majority of the projects wanted to pay people in illiquid tokens or equity, and people have rent to pay and get hungry. And so the collective solves for that by taking in, if we do work, so we're a decentralized Web3 advisory service. So when we take on a new client, and when they pay us $100, we take that $100 and we put it into our treasury, and then we mint $80 of liquid CryptoOracle tokens. COC is the symbol. We're traded on, Uniswap v3. And now people, if they want to, can get liquid, and we own the other 20%. So we don't have any investors. We just created a mechanism to enable liquidity. And not only that, but if people want to, and they hang on to the token, now they don't just have, a token or equity in one project, which we all know is like a lottery ticket, but now they own a governance token, which is a right over an increasingly diversified pool of crypto assets. And for the vast majority of people, that's going to work out economically much better. So we're super excited that, I think we're enabling a whole bunch of new people to come and work and earn in Web3, and that's super exciting.
So someone will pay CryptoOracle Collective for services, and then you give them back value in the token?
Well, no. So a project, let's say Trust Exchange is an example of a project, right? So we, work for them, and they compensate us in their equity. So every month we get another slug of equity, and that, equity has significant value based on their last raise. And if we get $100 of value from them, again, we take that, we put that into our treasury, and then our treasury mints $80 of liquid tokens that we pay to our members who do the work. And if they hold on to the token, they'll get 100% of the value. And if they decide to trade the token for cash so they can pay their rent, then obviously the person who buys it will participate in the upside of the token.
What do projects usually come to CryptoOracle Collective for in terms of advisory? Like what are projects most often needing help with?
Sure. So, I'd say first they need help with everything. So, whether that's, obviously building a community, is something that we have deep expertise at. But I would say, by a margin, we have 12 different functional departments at the collective. By a wide margin, not surprisingly, the one that's most in demand is investor relations. So, we help, we're not an investment bank, so, we don't get paid based on success of raising. But, I think we profoundly help companies, improve their deck, their strategy, reaching out to VCs, putting together their data room, doing all the things to optimize for a successful case.
What are some, or not some, I'll just ask you about one. What's a success story that you saw in crypto since you joined, which you didn't expect to happen? You expected them to fail, and it turned out successful.
Expected them to fail and it turns out stuff. I really say until, for me, when I ran the second company, I ran Bulk, which was a social network, and our core audience was 16-year-old girls. And I was a 40-year-old guy. And I bought it with the original founder from the VCs who poured $60 million into it back in the day. And I had 3 great ideas for how to grow the traffic after we bought it. And it turned out that they were not great ideas. And it turned out that I did not know the next great thing that people wanted to do on the internet, or 16-year-old girls wanted to do. But it turned out that there were lots of 16, 18, 20-year-old generally guys who were building websites that were getting significant traction. And so I actually spent the majority of my time acquiring other websites, and my partner focused on organic growth. So that's a long way to say that I don't see myself as a product guy. I don't look at a product and go, wow, that's a product, and have a lot of conviction, that I'm right or wrong. I actually think the only people who know when a startup is going to be successful are the founders' moms. Everybody else is throwing darts. But what I'm really good at is looking early on traction and understanding the engagement trajectory. And by a wide margin, that's the most telling thing about the success of a project. When I wrote my Facebook report, I published it in March of 2010. It's still up on Tumblr. You can read it. My 2014 revenue estimate, published in March of 2010, was off by less than 1%. Because all I said was their engagement is going to continue to grow along the same trajectory. And in 2014, they'll have 11% of all internet time, and the internet advertising market will be 110 billion. And, they'll have 14 billion in revenue. And so, for me, again, it's very simple. It's how engaged is your community, and is it getting more engaged or less?
Which community do you think is becoming more engaged, in crypto?
Well, sure. Well, obviously I said Ethereum is, I think, by a wide margin, they're the pantheon of communities. So, the idea that people are going to leave Ethereum in droves to go to Solana, to me, was comical. And while certainly, I think Solana has built up a good community, I think it pales in comparison to the strength of the Ethereum community. If I think about other communities that I've been blown away by, I'm not sure. Are you guys familiar with Celo? CELO?
Yeah, I heard of it. Yeah, I know it.
Yeah, it's it's a layer 1 protocol based on a book called Sacred Economics, which is, I feel I learned more from reading Sacred Economics than any other thing that I've read in the 5.5 years I've been crypto 24/7. And the Celo community, and they're all about financial inclusion and making the world a better place. And they are executing on that extraordinarily well. And again, making the world a better place is an incredible aphrodisiac. It makes for an incredibly strong community.
Do you think that I think a lot of crypto is that's the message, but it gets shown in different ways. Like Bitcoiners will say we're making the world a better place by taking away banks. NFT communities will say we're making the world a better place by democratizing, artists' ability to make money, and, bringing attention to digital artists. And there's so many different ways to put that. I think that's interesting. Let me pivot a bit here, a bit more of a general question. Which blockchain do you think is winning the alternative layer 1 race? And do you think they're really a competitor? Maybe another question that goes alongside that is, do you think Ethereum will maintain its king position as, the main DeFi blockchain?
Again, coming back to the community, Ethereum's in the pantheon. There's nothing that I've seen that indicates to me that is in any way at risk. Now, I'm very aware that there's nothing constant but change. And so, I spend more than 60% of my time traveling the world to, different crypto events, trying to keep my finger on the pulse of what's going on and make sure that there's not some fundamental change happening. And to me, outside of that, we're on this inexorable march. I don't, for me, I'm pretty sure that the regulators are not solving for me. And so, I want to think about the regulators as much as the regulators think about me. And
what do you mean they're not solving for you?
That, they're solving for them, right? Gary Gensler is solving for him. Gary Gensler doesn't, I don't believe that, and by the way, that's everybody all the time. That's what the man in the middle does. He solves for himself. I don't believe in laws. I don't think laws exist. Laws are a figment of our imagination. All there are people in power and what they decide to do with it, right? And then you get another guy in power, right? One day abortion's legal, the next day it's illegal. Why? Because people change, right? And so, the people in charge of, our financial markets in the U.S., they're going to solve for that. And the awesome thing is there are other regulators outside the U.S. who are actually, I think, doing a much better job of solving for their people. And so you don't have to do crypto in the U.S. You can go to Dubai, right? Dubai has a flourishing crypto ecosystem. You can go to Singapore. Singapore is booming. You can go to, the best Crypto Monday, my favorite Crypto Monday of 2022 was, I went to the launch of Crypto Monday Saigon, and that was incredible. That was the first, Vietnam is the most penetrated crypto country in the world. And that was the first Crypto Monday I'd ever been to where I think more than half the people were female.
Where do you think the U.S. is going to land when they, get some regulation figured out over the next, few months, maybe the rest of this year? Are you worried that the U.S. is pushing blockchain too far away and that might push the innovation outside of the U.S. and then, our
Look, I'm worried for our country. I'm worried for our country. I think we are done. I don't know if you read Ray Dalio, but he's got this great, he's the kind of premier macro investor in the world.
Right.
And he's got this great chart of 500 years of the rise and fall of empires, economic/military empires. And, the U.S. peaked in the early 60s in terms of our global dominance. And now we're in free fall at the same time as China is going up and to the right. And it's inexorable, and there's nothing wrong with it, right? Nobody's on top forever. But when you're falling, you have to look in the mirror and admit to yourself that you're failing and that somebody else is rising to power, right? When the U.S. was rising and Great Britain was falling, Great Britain didn't point a gun at the U.S. and said, that's our mortal enemy. No, they hooked their star to our wagon and benefited massively from our rise. But we're doing the opposite. We're telling our populace that China is the enemy. Why? Because they're rising and we're falling. And our government, I personally believe, doesn't care anymore about us, right? They stopped solving our problems, right? Nobody's talking about the deficit. Nobody's talking about healthcare. All either party talks about is how the other party is terrible and corrupt. And if we just got rid of the other party, then all our problems would be solved. And that's really the last vestiges of democracies, right? Every democracy fails. And Jared Diamond, who wrote Guns, Germs, and Steel, his most recent book he did a history of the fall of democracies. And what he found is they all share two things in common. One is the inability of the two sides to compromise. And the other one is nobody sees it coming. So, what our government is doing with crypto is the same thing they're doing with everything. They're completely fucking it up because they don't care anymore. It's not about solving problems. It's simply about staying in power, right? And even if that means an insurrection, half the country is totally fine with an insurrection if it means that they can stay in power.
Yeah. Right. You make some great points there. Do you think that the U.S. You made the point that the UK, latched onto America's rise and benefited from that. Do you see the US being able to do that with China, or are the ideological differences and the geopolitical tensions too much for us to do that? Could we end up suffering as a result of that?
We, I think, had, benefited massively for many years from the rise of China. Now, did they benefit more than us? Of course they did. Could we have done some things better? Of course we could have. But net, for many years, the rise of China was a big reason on why our standard of living in the U.S. continued to rise. Right, so it was a massive win-win, and then we got new politicians to come in, and all of a sudden China was the enemy, and our problems were because of China. And I don't know. Have you guys been to China?
I've not.
Me neither.
I went for my first time in 2019. I went to CryptoMonday Shanghai twice. And I was shocked because it was not at all like my government and media told me it was. Now, again, the Chinese government is horrible and disgusting. And I'm not saying that I like the Chinese government. All governments are horrible and disgusting. But in my view, in terms of solving for their people, for the happiness of their people, for the standard of living of their people, I think it's hard to argue that China is not doing a much better job of that than the U.S. My kids, I have 19, 21, 24-year-old kids, boys. They are going to be the first generation in the history of the United States to be worse off financially than their parents on average. And that's literally the death of the American dream. And the U.S. is not ready, has not prepared for the death. People will not accept the death, right? There's this incredible the income distribution in the United States, right? The fact that the vast majority of all our wealth creation went to 10 people. That actually is okay if everybody else's standard of living is rising. But when that stops happening, I don't think you have a country anymore.
Yeah, I think you made a great point with the fact that younger generations in America don't feel as financially secure, even close to as financially secure as their parents. I mean, I'm around the same age as your sons, and I can tell you that from my own personal experience and a ton of people I know, everyone got into crypto or investing or flipping NFTs or something, some type of hustle during COVID, because every single person was worried, hey, like, I'm not going to be making enough. I don't feel like if I get a job and, contribute to my 401k, it's going to make a difference in my life. It kind of feels like the financial incentives that were built to grow America in the 20th century are now kind of tapped out in a way. And there's the people in the younger generation have to do riskier and riskier things to try to, there's this like feeling of my peers, like we all need to break free. We all need to like somehow get out and break free from the system, which has been
it's changed so much just in my lifetime. I went to UCLA undergrad, and when I started, it was $25 a quarter. So I paid $75 a year for a top 10 or certainly top 20 education, and the second year it went up to $75 a quarter, and there were riots, right? And now, right? I mean, right? People are graduating with $200,000 of debt for college. It's crazy. It's crazy. And, if you don't pay your taxes in the United States, there's no law against you not paying taxes. You have to file your taxes. but you don't have to pay. You owe the government will do a lot to try and get it, but the government cannot throw you in jail for not paying your taxes. And at the end of 10 years, if they haven't gotten their money back, you don't owe them money anymore. Right?
I didn't know.
The only debt that doesn't go away is student debt.
Really, I didn't know that about taxes. Actually, that sounds. If that's true, then why doesn't everyone do it? Why doesn't no one pay taxes?
The rich people don't pay taxes. That's like the great secret, right? Donald Trump, billionaire, years and years, didn't pay taxes. Right now, you can say he cheated. I don't know whether he cheated or not. My assumption is he cheated, but who knows? But the fact is, he didn't pay taxes for 40 years. He was a billionaire, and nothing happened to him, right? And that's every billionaire. Billionaires decide how much money they want to pay, and that's what they pay. And we don't have people at the IRS who even have the ability to go and audit these guys because it's too complex. So we built a system to, and have a set of rules that were written by the billionaires. And it's great for them and not so great for the rest of us. I mean, I'm not a billionaire, but I have significantly benefited from, all the ways that our system is corrupt. But my kids are no longer going to be as advantaged.
We're reaching almost the end of the show. I want to ask you one more question and then do a community question, but I'm actually going to do the community question first, which is from Shaper of Entropy. He asked you, what do you think are advantages and disadvantages of Algorand compared to other blockchains? And does CryptoOracle DAO advise projects to build on Algorand or not?
So, I will admit, just through happenstance, I have not yet spent a lot of time with the Algorand community. I'm actually excited for the CryptoOracle Collective. We have calls every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m., where we have featured guests come from, around the crypto ecosystem to educate us. And our guest tomorrow is the new CMO of Algorand. So I'm really looking forward. Yeah, Jessica. So I look forward to learning more, and I really look forward to going to an Algorand ecosystem at some point.
Yeah, you should come through. But yeah, that makes sense if you are into.
By the way, yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh no, I'm saying one of the I get to MC Paris Blockchain Week and hang out with the speakers in the green room before they speak. And undoubtedly, last year, one of the highlights was getting to hang with Sylvia Macaulay. He is just such an incredible human, so brilliant, just such a nice guy and forward thinking.
I believe you should be there again this year.
Yeah, no, he's definitely going to be there
again. You were with CZ recently backstage at which conference?
Paris Blockchain Week.
Which conference was that?
That was Paris. That was Paris Blockchain Week. That's been my pinned tweet for a year.
Okay, so that's not even recent. So I was wrong.
Yeah, yeah.
But how do you get into those positions where you're hanging out with CZ backstage? What? I'm sure it's not like.
Well, again, this is.
And obviously, this is like a buildup of your hard work and effort, but it's cool to see.
It is very cool. I got to tell you, it was literally one of the most enjoyable days of 2 days, 3 days actually of my life. And the reason I got to do it comes back to the more you do for the community, the more the community does for you. Crypto Monday Paris was awesome. It started in May of 2018. It was the 5th Crypto Monday to start. And Mike Lamard, who's the guy who started, massively talented guy, and he grew it until it became Paris Blockchain.
Okay, the last question I have for you really quick. Over the next, let's say up until 2030, what are you most bullish on in crypto? Like, what about crypto do you think is going to grow the most, and what is the most bearish thing to you? Like, what could be the Achilles heel of the crypto industry?
Well, look, I think DeFi is kind of certainly seems to be the first category that is scaling. I did 26 episodes of stablecoins are killing it in 2020. I think stablecoins are really the first mass market tool. I think that's going to be what's going to be adopted. I'm a huge fan, actually, of CBDCs. I think that, as countries roll out CBDCs and people get their first digital wallet, I think it's not too far a jump to go from whatever CBDC is in your wallet to Bitcoin, right? When you see the value of the CBDC going down every day and the value of Bitcoin going up over time. I'm broadly very bullish. What am I negative on? Let's see, what am I negative on?
There's got to be something that you don't like about the crypto industry.
I would say when I first got into crypto, I was very turned off by all of the vitriol. And now, actually, I think even the vitriol I see as a feature and not a bug, because, at a macro level, I really think we're in a fucking war for the soul of the metaverse. And we're not competing against the governments. We're competing against what I call FAMGA, Facebook, Apple, Microsoft, Google, and Amazon. And if we're going to win, we're going to win because we have really, really passionate people. And passionate people are going to conflict with each other from time to time. And so I'll take the vitriol if I can keep the passion.
That's true. The passionate debates really push things to the next level. That is something I love about crypto too. Ben, do you have any closing questions or comments for Lou before we wrap it up?
No, I'm good with it, Ibo. It was very fantastic space. I really loved this today. Very insightful. And I just want to thank Lou for being here with us. And I'm very looking forward to him diving more the Algorand ecosystem. I think he can bring a lot of value here.
When's the next ecosystem summit?
And you mean the next Decipher would be? I guess it's in next autumn.
Okay. Well, keep me posted. I'm sure I'll see it around.
Yeah. I'll make sure I get you a ticket or maybe even a stage.
That would be great. Do we know where it is?
They didn't announce it yet. I have a few options.
Where was the last one?
In Dubai, and the first one was Miami. So I really hope the next one is in Europe. So why not even Italy?
I don't know. It sounds like it should be in Asia.
Yeah, I don't know. We will see. They usually differentiate. So let's see what will happen.
Okay, cool. Well, thanks a lot for having me, guys. I had fun.
Yes, thank you for coming on the show, Lou. It's great to have you. Anyone listening in the audience, or if you're listening to the recording, please follow at Lou Kerner on Twitter. Follow CryptoOracle DAO as well. Keep up with what they're up to. And yeah, it's a pleasure to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Thanks, everyone, for listening. We'll see you next time. Bye.